Hi, everyone, and welcome to this week of the Align Wellness Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Torrie Thompson, and this week we are talking about something that I think if you've ever struggled with it, you know the feeling of, quite honestly, it feels like torture. So this week we're talking about sleep, why sleep's so important, and what are some of the common root causes of not sleeping. The body is designed to sleep, to get good sleep and rest. That's when our body cleans house. That's when our body detoxes. That's when our body rebuilds. So we're not really supposed to get poor sleep. So when we struggle with sleep, what could be causing it and what can we do? So it's estimated that about 1 in 3 adults in the United States doesn't get enough sleep on a regular basis. The American Academy of Sleep Medicine estimates that 30 to 35% of adults have insomnia symptoms, and about 10% of those meet the criteria for chronic insomnia. The part that is really important about sleep is if you have shorter sleep duration, right? You're not getting your full 7 to 8 hours. It's been linked to obesity, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and early mortality. So it is of the utmost importance to actually get good sleep, to get rest. But so many of us struggle with it. And even one night of bad sleep can raise blood pressure, can increase our inflammation, and impair insulin sensitivity, which then insulin sensitivity, if that goes out the window, we can end up with blood sugar imbalances, type 2 diabetes down the road, which then has a whole nother slew of negative health effects. I remember when I was really struggling with Lyme, undiagnosed, I would go nights and nights and nights really with getting no sleep. And it was the ultimate torture. And I tried sleep supplements and CBD and everything, and nothing worked. It wasn't really until I cleaned up my diet, got myself on some supplements, and started healing my body that I was really able to sleep and then get good, restful sleep. For some people, they're asleep, but they're not actually getting good, restful sleep. So, what are some of the common root causes of not sleeping well? Your body, because it's so important, isn't just going to go, we don't need sleep. It's really not going to happen. So we often like to look at several things. One of the big guys is the gut. The gut is where the majority of our serotonin and our dopamine are made. So if your gut is imbalanced, it's not uncommon to see that the neurotransmitters are completely out of balance. Serotonin goes on to make melatonin, which is going to control our circadian rhythm. So if our serotonin is off from having a gut imbalance, that can set us up for not sleeping well. But a big guy that people don't really look at is actually parasite infections. People tend to think here in the United States, we don't have parasites, but if you have pets, you like to garden, you eat sushi, you eat raw vegetables, you swim in rivers or lakes, you could have parasites. They are common. And so the parasites, the way that they affect sleep is they are going to be nocturnal. They have their own circadian rhythms, and so they're going to be metabolically active at night. And so really we like to think of them as like 2 to 3 a.m. They tend to wake us up. And this is when they are going to be eating, pooping and peeing essentially. And so we have a lot of metabolic activity that can keep us up. That 2 to 3 a.m. is also Chinese medicine liver time. And so that's when the liver is detoxing and cleaning and all of that. And so you add liver stress, you add parasites, and that can keep you up. Parasites also are going to deplete our nutrients. They are going to love to munch on our, whether it's neurotransmitters, whether it's your iron, your magnesium, whatever it is, and they are going to use that as fuel. So the amino acid tryptophan, which if you've ever had turkey on Thanksgiving, that's what makes you tired. Tryptophan goes on to make serotonin and melatonin. Parasites love to munch on that, so they can deplete your tryptophan pathway by just munching on it. Parasites also can activate our immune system, right? There's something, an invader in our body. The immune system has to go try to take it down. The immune system is strong at night. It tends to activate at night. So often we're going to release these inflammatory chemicals at night, which can create stress hormones and create that fight or flight response. So it can wake people up with like a racing heart or feeling very on edge. Because of these guys stealing our vitamins and minerals, we often have symptoms of restless legs, like that feeling where you have to move your legs at night, very uneasy, feeling like kind of like you need to move. And then Teeth grinding, teeth clenching is also a symptom that can be associated with parasites. So they can create symptoms from the nutrient deficiencies, they can deplete our neurotransmitters, they can cause inflammation, activate the immune response. And so these guys are a big guy for not being able to sleep. The next one is one of my favorites, and really what was one of the big drivers affecting my sleep, and that's mold mycotoxins. So mold mycotoxins, people love to say that they don't have any exposure to them, and most likely you do. So the two ways you get exposure to mold mycotoxins is food sources. So it's not mold that you can see. These are toxins released by mold. And the big foods we look at are going to be coffee, grains, and peanuts. And then water damage exposure. So being in an office building, an apartment, a house, an Airbnb, a hotel, somewhere that has water damage, you get exposed to these mycotoxins. They come and they get stored in the body, and then we deal with the health effects down the road. So mold mycotoxins, they're very inflammatory at their core. And so they're inflammatory to the brain, very neuroinflammatory, and very inflammatory really to the body. Mycotoxins can actually cross the blood-brain barrier, so they're going to activate the brain's immune system of, hey, there's a problem, and so the brain is going to try to clean house and get rid of it. This brain neuroinflammation is really sets us up for neurotransmitter imbalances. Can really alter our melatonin and our cortisol responses. It can really alter your circadian rhythm just from the inflammation. Mold mycotoxins can stimulate the mast cells to release histamine, and we have histamine naturally that ebbs and flows throughout the day. But when you get too much histamine from some sort of immune activation, it can be very excitatory, excitatory to the brain, so it can make you feel very wired. Histamine is naturally going to be highest at night, so now you have these mold mycotoxins releasing histamine, and that is going to cause you to feel very amped, very excited, not able to fall asleep at night. Mold mycotoxins can also really affect our temperature. And so mold will trigger the hypothalamus, and this is the part of the brain that actually helps with temperature regulation. And so we often see people with mold mycotoxins having night sweats, or all of a sudden being suddenly very hot and then freezing, and these temperature fluctuations. Yes, they can be hormone derived, but they also can be mold mycotoxin derived. Some of my toughest client cases that we've ever seen of insomnia come back with the highest levels of mold. Yes, they have usually this, they usually have gut involvement and parasites and bacterial overgrowth and leaky gut and all of that as a result of having these mycotoxins. But usually mycotoxins are kind of the star of the show. If someone has them, they can really affect your sleep. The next root cause is something that people love to also say they're not dealing with, and that is blood sugar imbalances. So your blood sugar is, we want it to stay within a certain level. And as you eat food, it gets broken down to sugar, and the body and the cells use that sugar as fuel to do all of our jobs. And so you need the blood sugar to be within a certain window. You don't want it dropping too low. You don't want it getting too high. And so if people are struggling with either too low or too high, that can really affect how we sleep. So one of the common things that people waking up in the middle of the night experience is actually nighttime crashes. So this is when blood sugar gets too low. So when your blood sugar gets too low, it signals, hey, we've got a big problem. So what it will do is it will actually get your body to release cortisol to bring your blood sugar back up so it can get to a healthy range. And so the problem with that is when you release a bunch of cortisol, it's your stress response. So people will wake up in the middle of the night, very panicky, heart racing, and it can be blood sugar imbalances. So this generally happens between 2 to 4 a.m. And so if someone is waking up, I usually like them to get a CGM, a continuous glucose monitor that goes in the back of their arm, and it will track your blood sugar throughout the day. How you want it to look is really pretty rolling hills, not steep mountains and steep crashes. If you're that up, down, means you're riding a blood sugar wave. It's coming up, it's crashing down. It's coming up, it's crashing down. So what would set us up for these nighttime crashes? High carb dinners will be a big one. So not really having a lot of fat, not having a lot of protein, but a lot of carbs. So you burn it very fast and then your blood sugar is very low. That can set us up. Having cortisol and adrenal imbalances. If your adrenals are off, we can set us up for these crashes in the middle of the night. Poor sleep itself actually can cause this vicious cycle of blood sugar crashing. So having a poor night of sleep can then cause our insulin sensitivity to be off the next day. Insulin is the guy that actually helps get the glucose into the cell. And when your glucose is high for prolonged periods of time, so say you eat a really high processed food diet or high carb or high sugar diet, your blood sugar is going to stay pretty high. And the way that your body will bring it down to a healthy level is producing more and putting out more insulin. So you can bring that glucose into the cell so your blood sugar is not staying too high. So if you have a poor night of sleep, we can have our insulin can be off the next day. And when our insulin's off the next day, then it can really set us up for these nighttime crashes again. Then we're waking up, we have a poor night of sleep, and so you can get into this vicious cycle. So what are some symptoms of these blood sugar imbalances? This is waking up really wired, heart racing, all of that, morning fatigue, waking up hungry in the middle of the night, needing to get up and go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, and then craving sugar, craving carbs. The next possible root cause of why you may not be sleeping is probably the one that most people talk about and most people know about, and this is hormones. Your hormone system, and a hormone is basically any messenger chemical that travels through blood. So people always think of your sex hormones, progesterone, estrogen, testosterone, but it's also thyroid hormones, cortisol, all are part of our hormone system. So these guys are very much connected to your circadian rhythm. And so the first guy is cortisol. Cortisol does follow a natural curve. You should wake up. Your cortisol will spike and kind of peak mid-morning, and then it gradually comes down throughout the day, being the lowest right before you go to bed. The problem is chronic stress will throw this for a loop, and often our cortisol stays high, the pattern gets very out of balance, and our cortisol is much higher than it needs to be. When this happens, your adrenals end up burned out. People may feel tired but wired, right? You're tired, but you're on edge. You're very wired. That's very classic of high cortisol. And eventually this leads to then very low cortisol. You can't keep putting out that much cortisol. But in the beginning, it's very tired and wired. Then down the road, it turns into very flat, very low energy. You really can't pick it up. And that is where people will call adrenal fatigue, adrenal burnout. When our cortisol is really high, it ties back to blood sugar. When cortisol is high, it's a stress response. And you think back to when, we didn't have chronic stress, and say you were being chased by a bear, you needed survival. And so if your stress was high, you would need extra fuel. So the body would actually release extra glucose to use as fuel. So now your stress is high. It's just from life and work and kids and finances. All of a sudden now, our cortisol is high, our blood sugar is now high. So now we have to put out more insulin to bring our blood sugar down. We eventually end up in that insulin resistant state. And so we can ride those crazy waves of blood sugar imbalances crashing in the middle of the night, all because of chronic stress. The next are these sex hormones. We've got progesterone, estrogen, testosterone. I would say estrogen is probably the most common one to cause hormonal imbalances affecting our sleep. As we get older and our hormones naturally drop, when we have these guys go a little out of balance, we can have things like hot flashes and night sweats and not being able to sleep, waking up in the early parts of the morning. So progesterone really supports our GABA receptors, and that's going to help calm the body down. GABA is a calming neurotransmitter, helps promote sleep. So when progesterone is low, whether it's perimenopause or menopause, we often see worsening symptoms of insomnia. Estrogen, the fluctuations, and this drops as we get older. If it gets too low, we often see night sweats, hot flashes. You have kind of two sides of the spectrum. We have estrogen as it gets lower as we age, and then you have estrogen dominance. There's so many hormone disruptors now that mimic estrogen, and so we get into a very estrogen dominant state. This can also cause these symptoms as well. So doing proper hormone testing to see what do your hormones look like. I like Dutch testing because it looks at the hormones and all of the metabolites, because your hormone might be all right, but it's not breaking down. And so it gives you an idea of how your hormones actually are breaking down. I just did a hormone test on a family member, and we found all of the actual hormones were great, but she's actually not breaking down her estrogen very well. And so she's got a very high level of the inflammatory metabolites and not a very high level of the anti-inflammatory levels. So it's really, you can start to see how in the pathway these hormones are being affected so you can adjust and do what you need to do. Then for the men, low testosterone men is very strongly associated with reduced sleep and poor recovery. So for men, it often dips. For them, it can be really that estrogen dominance. If you go estrogen dominant, your testosterone tends to dip. So really doing a hormone test can be crucial even on the men. Thyroid hormones can affect our sleep. Most people tend to be hypo or low thyroid hormone, and this can cause this constant fatigue, constant low energy. Even with a bunch of sleep, they won't feel super energized, super vitalized. So having your thyroid checked can be crucial. If you're high thyroid or hyperthyroid, this can be overstimulating, can cause insomnia, anxiety, racing heart. So having your thyroid levels checked. I did a whole podcast on the thyroid and what hormones you want to look for, because TSH is not enough. You want to look at all of the hormones involved to make sure, again, is that thyroid converting all the way through like it should be. The last root cause is probably the easiest to fix, and this is poor sleep hygiene. And so we think of, you just get in bed and go to sleep, and maybe that's how it was when you were younger. But with sleep hygiene, it's something that you need to kind of learn and practice. For most of us, the biggest culprit is blue light exposure. And so with blue light, that is the light put out by TVs, phones, tablets, any sort of artificial light puts out blue light. And blue light is basically tells the brain that it's daytime. So when we should be going to sleep, and as it gets darker, we start to release melatonin, and melatonin tells our body, hey, it's getting dark, it's going time to go to bed, and we start winding down. When you're getting exposed to all this blue light, it tricks the brain. And so what it does is the body goes, oh, it's daylight, so it's not time to go to sleep. So we'll actually start to lower the melatonin. It can suppress the melatonin production by about 50%. So when that delays your melatonin release, doesn't signal your body, hey, it's time to go to sleep. So nobody loves to hear this, but not being on your phone or your tablet before bed is really crucial. And if you're going to watch TV, you can wear blue light glasses or those orange sunglasses. It will actually take the blue light out. The clear film that you can get on your reading glasses for blue light doesn't do anything in terms of blue light. So you really need those dark orange sunglasses to cut the blue light exposure. Another one nobody loves to hear is alcohol. Alcohol, it does make you feel tired. However, it is actually going to keep your body from entering REM sleep. And so this is why people can wake up feeling really groggy, even if you got 8, 9, 10 hours of sleep. It's just you didn't get your full sleep cycle that's going to help your body recover and rebalance. Caffeine too late in the day is a big one. The half-life of caffeine is 6 to 8 hours, depending on how fast you metabolize it. Some people, it's way longer than that. And so a 2, 3 p.m. cup of coffee can still be in your system and still be excitatory when you're trying to go to bed. So really, for sensitive people, not having caffeine after like 10, 11 is helpful to get them to go to sleep. And then the bedroom environment. So in your room, when you go to sleep, you want it to be pitch black. Ideally, you shouldn't be able to see your hand in front of your face. And you want it to be cold. Nobody loves to hear this, but ideally the best sleeping temperature, according to research, is 65 to 68 degrees. You want it to be cold. So setting yourself up with a cold room, or you can get something like an 8 Sleep or these sleep mattress toppers that will actually keep it cold. You can do that. And then having it be pitch black. You don't want an alarm clock with a time, and you don't want light peering through your windows. You want it completely black in the room so that you can actually get good sleep. So why really does sleep matter? What are the cycles? What happens in all of them? So the first stage of sleep is light sleep. This is when you're transitioning to sleep. This is the in and out of kind of going to sleep and waking up. It's really about 5%, or should be 5% of the night. Then you're going to go into deeper light sleep. And this is where your heart rate should slow down, your body temperature drops, your wave your brain waves begin to slow down. And this is about 50% of your sleep. This going to set you up for that deep sleep. So the next stage is deep sleep. And this is when your body is going to do the most repair. And getting adequate sleep is crucial. This is when your body detoxes, it cleans house, it does all of its jobs, is when you're in this deep sleep phase. Growth hormone is going to be released so your muscles can recover. The lymphatic system is going to clean out toxins of the brain. This is going to be where your immune system is strengthened. It's going to help protect us against brain inflammation and body inflammation. This is the most crucial recovery stage. And often if you're wearing wearables, you're going to see is probably the part that you struggle with the most. And then we have REM sleep, which is for rapid eye movement. This is a dream stage. This is going to be crucial for our memory. This is where the brain processes what's important, stores some in memory. This is going to be our emotional regulation. This is going to be our learning stage. Basically, it's the brain processing everything that happened. So this is going to help you process stress, solidify new skills, remember memories that happened. Without enough REM sleep, people often feel very like brain foggy, moody, forgetful, kind of living in a haze. You're going to cycle through this whole cycle 4 to 6 times per night. And even if you miss one of those from shortened sleep, it can have massive, massive impact. It can reduce our detox, our healing, our hormone imbalance, all of that. So getting crucial and enough sleep is just as important as getting all of these cycles. So with wearables are awesome. I've been an Oura fan for many, many years. There's now so many different wearables. You have Oura, Whoop, Garmin, Ultrahuman, all of these different wearables, and they're going to track your sleep. And so they track things like heart rate variability, how much of all of those cycles of sleep, respiratory rate, heart rate, and it gives you good data. So what you want to look at is your total sleep versus your sleep efficacy. So total sleep is how many hours you were asleep. So ideally, you're going to have somewhere between 7 to 9 hours for adults. So our sleep efficacy, this is basically the percentage of time you were actually asleep. So this is going to look at how many hours you were in bed, how many times you woke up, and it's basically going to give you a score. So you want to be as high as possible, showing that you were in sleep and not woken up or disturbed. Most of the wearables will give you how much deep sleep you're in. Oura tends to be right now looking like the most accurate. They're not perfect. None of them are, but gives you an idea. So ideally you want your 15 to 25% of your night to be in deep sleep. So looking at your actual breakdown of types of sleep and how much you spend there can be very helpful to seeing, are you sleeping and getting good, restful, deep sleep? Then we can look at your resting heart rate. So your resting heart rate should dip down as you go to sleep, and it should be the lowest in the middle of the night. If you are seeing your resting heart rate isn't dipping, that can be signs of chronic stress. It can be from, throwing your body off from blood sugar imbalances, and it can be also alcohol will do that as well. But if you're not seeing your resting heart rate dropping, you want to look at what is my stress load, and then sometimes doing a CGM is crucial to see what is my blood sugar doing. Is it dropping in the middle of the night, causing this flood of cortisol and stress hormone response? HRV, this is one that tends to stump people. They have no idea what it means. HRV stands for heart rate variability, and this is basically a measure of how well your nervous system adapts to stress. You want this number as high as it will possibly go. So you should be getting good, as your sleep improves, your HRV should be improving. And so when you see you have a chronically low HRV at night, it's often signals that your body is stuck in fight or flight. So we need to look at what is your stress. What do we need to do to bring stress down? Your HRV is going to drop with age, but if you see it all of a sudden drop off, that can be a sign, hey, my body is stressed. I need to work on recovery. Often things like mold mycotoxins, gut imbalance, nutrient deficiencies also will tank your HRV. So ideally, kind of depending on your age, 50 to 100 is the goal. The younger you are, the higher you want it. And it's really how high can you get it? If you can get it over 100, that's the goal. That's the dream. So what do we need to do to get good sleep? So the first and foremost, most important thing is really balancing our blood sugar. So we want our blood sugar never to drop below 70, never to get over 140. So having this stable blood sugar is crucial. So having protein-rich dinners, don't have just carbs for dinner. You want 25 to 35 grams of protein for dinner to prevent these crashes. If you're someone that's tracked your blood sugar and it's crashing in the middle of the night, you may need to do a protein-rich snack before bed as you're working on balancing your blood sugar. This can be protein or fat to help stabilize you a little bit longer. You want to avoid sugar and alcohol and caffeine late at night to prevent these crashes. And so really watching your blood sugar. But if you're dropping in the middle of the night, that is step one to getting better sleep. The next is cleaning up your gut, getting your gut back in check. So this is testing, doing testing and seeing what is going on in your gut. Is it just inflammation? Is it leaky gut? Is it parasites? Is it mold? What is going on? So seeing what's there and then doing some sort of, protocol, whether it's a leaky gut protocol, whether it's just cleaning up for parasites, whatever it is, but do testing and see what's going on with your gut and then come up with a protocol from there. And then add in gut healing foods, even if you're working on it or you're going to work on testing and coming up with a protocol with a practitioner. This is things like bone broth. This can be garlic. This can be, lots of rich protein, red meat, chicken, getting a lot of these amino acids in, just eating a whole food diet, no processed foods, low sugar to give your gut what it needs to do its jobs. In the spirit of testing, I also like to look for mold mycotoxins if someone's really not sleeping. So running a urine mold mycotoxin test on your body to see, are there mycotoxins in your body? Are they stored? And then run HEPA air purifiers in your house. Even if you've never been exposed to mold, I still run them. Every room has HEPA air purifiers. So whether it's Air Doctor, Austin Air, Allen Air, one of them that is a HEPA purifier that is going to help get rid of any of the mold mycotoxins, as well as other things, viruses, bacteria, VOCs, that will clean the air and make sure you have clean air in your house. But test your body for mold mycotoxins, because if that's the case, detoxing them is crucial. Balancing our hormones is crucial as well. So really working on stress, making sure our cortisol is balanced is very, very important. And so something that's helpful is waking up and getting sunlight first thing in the morning and not getting on your phone first thing in the morning, not being on your phone right before you go to sleep, but getting your cortisol in balance, working on reducing stress, and then testing for your hormones. If you're suspecting some hormone imbalances, do something like a Dutch test to see what is your estrogen, testosterone, progesterone, and all of their metabolites. What do we need to do in the hormone pathway? And then optimize your sleep environment. So you want it dark, like we talked about, pitch black and cold. So 65 to 68 degrees, have blackout curtains, really have a dark environment. You really want your room to be something that it is really, you're not working in your bed, you're not eating in bed. It is purely just a place that you go to sleep. You want to set yourself up so your body is trained there, not just hanging out in your room, working on your bed. Then we want a consistent schedule. You want to go to bed. If you go to bed at 9:30 and you get in bed and you read and you go to bed at 10, we want to do that pretty consistently. Get on a regular schedule and stay on that. Try not to go to bed at 8 one night, 11 the next, 1 a.m. the next. Try to go to bed early. And then being really mindful about no screen time, no iPads, no iPhones, all of that before bed. If you're watching TV, wear your blue light blockers to really not have that blue light coming in to suppress your melatonin. You can wear your wearables. I'm a huge fan. As long as you don't wake up and let the wearable score dictate your day. Some people, they'll feel fine and then they see that their Aura readiness score was a 67 and then they're like, oh, I didn't sleep well. I feel horrible. And they let that dictate their day. So you can't. You have to just look at it as data. Don't look at it right in the morning. Just kind of, go about your day and then look at it later. But great to be able to see what your deep sleep is, your REM, your resting heart rate, your HRV, your oxygen levels. Gives us so much data of how your body is recovering, how your body is sleeping. So I'm a big, big fan of it. Just finding which one you like, whether it's a watch, whether it's a ring, some sort of wearable to give you data. So there's a few supplements you can use. Again, I think they're Band-Aids. So figuring out why you're not sleeping is crucial. But magnesium is the big guy. People tend to be very deficient in it. So magnesium is a relaxation mineral. It does help calm the nervous system. It helps regulate GABA. Which GABA is the calming neurotransmitter. So magnesium glycinate is going to be that full body relaxation magnesium. Magnesium threonate is going to be more that mind relaxation. Magnesium citrate is going to be to help you have bowel movements in the morning. So you don't want to go crazy on mag citrate. You want to use something like magnesium glycinate. It's highly bioavailable. Magnesium citrate is not as bioavailable. It's why it causes loose stools. So you do want to use glycinate. And it does help really muscle relaxation, muscle recovery, and sleeping. So you want to take this guy before bed. Then we've got glycine. Glycine is an amino acid, which amino acids are the building blocks of everything. It's going to help us promote deep sleep. It's going to give us more restorative sleep. It lowers our body temperature a little bit. It supports neurotransmitter imbalances. And studies have shown that glycine supplementation can shorten our sleep latency, the time it takes to fall asleep, and improve our energy the next day. So it can really help also support our detox pathways, which, again, if you're trying to detox, is very, very helpful. So glycine can be very helpful as well. Then you've got chamomile. Most people have heard chamomile tea as a great way to relax. And it's because it actually is going to have a chemical in it that is going to bind to those GABA receptors, which is going to help calm the body as well. So chamomile is generally very safe, very well tolerated, doesn't affect a lot. Some of the sleep supplements you have to be very careful of. Ones I didn't mention, because if you're on SSRIs or SNRIs, they can affect neurotransmitters. So you can have to kind of pay attention, but magnesium, chamomile, these guys are very safe, very well tolerated, not going to affect some of the sleep medications. So sleep is complex. It really is. There's so many possible reasons why someone wouldn't be sleeping, but the most important thing is to kind of just start chipping away. Make sure your blood sugar is balanced. Start working on your gut. If that doesn't get better, then look into toxins. Make sure your bedroom environment is really a place that is conducive for sleep. And as you start to get your body healthier and healthier, generally sleep starts to improve. So I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I will see you next week.